Yes.
Okay. Sound like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? My fish is sick. Was that a really horrible, commercial, cell phone commercial? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining the first tap in the second season. It was incredible. And this is something that you are going to learn about all of us. And this is the part where I play a lot in, and that's strategy. I love strategy. Like my last name is Skirmer, and in high school, my nickname was Kimberly Schemer. And everyone thought, you always have an idea, you always have an answer, a solution. But that's just the way my brain works. Absolutely the way my brain works. So when I see something and how it works, I reverse engineer a lot of things. So here's that destination I want to get to. How do I reverse engineer all of these pieces so that we can follow the logical steps with connection and remove emotion to get to that desired result? So, one of the big divisions that we have is tap in. And I knew there needed to be a place for us to have a community, especially now when there is so much automation, where there's so much AI. We are missing the village, the community, the connection, the wellness, the conversation of having talks with real people. And so when we were building out Tap In and beta testing everything, I beta test everything we've done. I prove it first so that when we bring something to market, it is not a, I think this is going to work. This becomes a, I know this is going to work. So we beta tested this last year and we had 4 groups going. And Sean has been part of it. Derek's been part of it. Jenna heard about it in the background. But what we've done with this is that we had 4 groups kind of running simultaneously over 42 weeks. And they were 4 different industries, but all based in advice. So we had legal, we had coaches, consultants, we had financial advisors, and we had real estate agents. And out of all of the groups, we had 53 people in it at the beginning from the start of the 42 weeks. And when we finished after the 42 weeks, we had 49 people still showing up actively. And that was massive. So this was a place where we could sit and have great conversations and understand things together, because your roadmap to success is not something that you can just do alone. No one is self-made. But there's also a place and an opportunity where we have to have these conversations and build it piece by piece. So a lot of people that you'll be seeing coming in the Zoom room, some of our direct ongoing one-on-one clients, some of you just want to come in and just be part of it and just get to know and understand and just looking for some community. So when we're talking about bias, bias becomes a bit of a scary word. And Derek, I think will pop in a little bit too in and around the definition of it and talking about what it truly is. But it's just this tendency to prefer someone or something over another is the nicest and easiest way to look at it. So when we are in this industry, and this conversation that we need to have is that we need to know, where did we come from, right? First, where did we come from? Who do we want to be? And then who is that person, and diving down even more so into it. So the beginning part is we're talking about the hidden biases that actually we have as financial advisors unknowingly. But these are the parts that are giving us limitations. And I do think that self-awareness is the next edge in advice. Truly, truly is. So we need to today identify the defaults. We're going to talk about reactive versus being reflective, right? And these are all the systems that kind of support, because we have content and copy. So that's Derek. Derek, give a wave. We have Sean, who does all the systems and the tools, the automate guy, the doer of cool things. And Jenna's just in the background, and she's our behavioral psychologist. And I'm the strategic architect. So I've been coaching for a very long time, because I was playing yacht rock when we first started. So it's been a very long time. Okay. So you'll have a takeaway every time when we join Tap In. So this is that part of seeing what you don't
Exactly.
see, because we're so stuck in our business. There are so many pressures that are happening to us and around us that we don't take enough time to just pause and reflect and understand. So we have community Zoom rooms like this to talk about this. So when you see that how biases are quietly shapes our every independent decision that we make. So we're going to talk about this week about what holds you back. And then in the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about the biases that move you forward, because we got to understand both sides, right? So understanding that awareness, this is not criticism at all. This is calibration. This is the strongest thing that you can do for yourself, is just understand What is holding you back? The limitations. This conversation truly matters for growth, trust, and scalability. Really does. And independence, it doesn't mean that you're going to lose your objectivity or or see, I shouldn't have started. It was all that wood that I was loading around, I tell you. Not too much, but anyways, independence does not mean doing everything on your own, right? It just has an independent decision and a viewpoint on something. So there's really big five biases that hold you back in business, especially in an advice-based
Be
business.
quiet, Loki.
Oh, did a puppy dog just get in trouble?
Yeah,
So
sorry. I'm gonna
it's
mute
okay.
myself.
It's okay. So the five big biases that hold us back, right? That we aren't aware that we're doing. So we have an overconfidence bias, we have a confirmation bias, we have a survivorship bias, status quo, and comparison. So we're going to dive into these five big ones today. So overconfidence. This is all of us are going to chime in on this piece on how we see this show up in our areas of expertise. So, in our areas of copy, in areas of systems and tools, coaching and development, and behavioral psychology. Okay, so I'm going to call on all of us, but this big part of explaining it is overconfidence. It's mistaking independence for isolation, right? So many people pride themselves on being independent, but often that translates to doing it all yourself, right? We think we're independent and we need to do this all by ourselves, and we don't, right? So you underestimate how much you need an outside perspective. So coaches, consultants, behavioral experts, and even peers. So this is one of the reasons why we built Tap In, right? Is to get these ideas and this confirmation and just an understanding from your peers that show up or experts that come join the room. So, my fellowship, who wants to start first? Derek or Sean? Who wants to jump in on how you see this show up in your expertise? And I saw that Derek hit the button already. So, away you go, Mr. Pollard.
Well, first off, let me just ask, you all have access to the raise hand button at the bottom of your screens. How many of you got into advising to become, say, an expert copywriter, a video production expert, right? And yet, this myth of bootstrapping that is so pervasive in our culture that we don't even realize we subscribe to it often leads us to make those decisions and try to keep everything in house. I suspect all of you at one point or another have had that thought. Well, it's just writing. Of course I can do it. Look, everyone else can do it, particularly in the era of AI. I can just plug a few things in over here and get some outputs, and suddenly I have a week's worth or a month's worth of social media content. The thing is, you're undercutting your own expertise at that point. And Kim, as you were saying, independence here isn't making sure that you have your finger on every single aspect of your business. As all of you on this call know, it really is about having the confidence of knowing when your expertise has reached its wall, its plateau, its cliff, and finding the right people to connect with so that you don't have to upskill to the point of wanting to throw your computer out the window. I see this all the time in terms of marketing and messaging. Translation, which is really what copywriting is, right? Getting your expertise, your ideas on the page or screen in a way that's relatable and compelling to your ideal client. That's a different skill than all of the expert advice that you give on a daily basis. And so just being able to recognize that one difference allows you then to look outward by having looked inward, that difference, as you say, Kim, between reaction and reflection.
Mhm. Love it. I love it. It's very funny and interesting too. Of I had an old title and I had a joke business card, and it just said Kimberly Skirmer, and it said "Doer of all, knower of nothing." And you know what? So many of us carry that around unknowingly. And it's really hard, right? We're fighting for our voice. We're fighting for all these things, right? Of what it is and all these pressures on us. And we come into whatever industry it may be, name it. And we think we do need to know it all. And we usually come into an industry like this. It's not out of choice, really. It's not. I know there's not very many advisors that wake up and say, when I grew up, I want to be a financial advisor. It actually doesn't happen. When we see the stories all the time, many of us have fallen into this industry, right? Or it was just a stopgap or something like that. But we're just so used to doing it all ourselves. We truly are. And we're not meant to. We're definitely not meant to. Sean, the
Hmm.
man, the myth, the legend. How do you
Actually
see
had that
this?
shirt on a couple of days ago.
Did you? That's like one of my
Yeah.
favorite shirts ever.
Being a humble guy, it's very hard to go out with that fun shirt on because are they
And he's like
judging me?
6'5", guys. He's a
I know.
monster.
I've had the pleasure over the years working with a lot of independent, use that word, independent advisors. A lot of them solo, working with maybe an admin. A lot of times, what I see is being a systems guy or somebody to help them implement software is I really hear from somebody when they're feeling a pain, like they're in that present moment of they've come so far and they're just like, I can't get to where I want to go unless this problem is fixed, or they've gone to an event and their buddy has said, "Hey, I use this software," so they immediately think, "Hey, that's what I need." So what we look at this was you don't need to look at putting a software in place first that's going to solve all the problems without knowing what it is that you need to overcome, what you need to do. How do you work? How do other people in your practice work? If you're looking to position your business for sale down the road, how do we build it so that it will work for different people along the way? Now, when we say the word system, immediately people think exactly a software, but a system is really just a set of things. And that's the definition of that word, is a set of things that work together, as part of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. So the systems that we look at is, how do you actually want to do your inbox management in the morning? Can we set up filters and things like that to make it easier for you? Right? What's the process? What's like, who are you? How do you want to come across? What time do you need back in your day with it? So just coming back to this overconfidence question is I find a lot of advisors want a tool that's going to allow them to pretty much automate themselves and not necessarily just make them a better version of themselves. They want to just offload stuff so they can do more of the fun things that they want that's there. So that's what we look at it is, who do you want to be? Who do you want your practice to be? And we look at the past, present, and future. What have you done in the past? Because we don't want to go down that road again and overcome, the same obstacles we had to hop over, you had to hop over with previous people you've worked with or tried to do it yourself. But also, we need to look into the future with it. So, again, that overconfidence is overconfidence in what you think this software is going to do for you. Um, I've used this analogy with other people is that you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or any place like this and buy all the tools you want, but it's not making you a master carpenter unless you know what it is that you're building or how to even use those tools or which one of these many different saws can do different things that are there. And the last one of it is how do you walk through that day? The best one is insoles, right? The insoles that you wear are not going to actually make my feet feel good if I put them in, even though it's just an insole. They have to be made for you, and we customize different things, little tweaks in there that are unique to exactly how you need to operate that day. And if somebody comes in and takes your place years down the road, those are just the little things that just need to be tweaked, but the overarching core system, strategy, function, flow of everything in your business is the same.
Awesome. Thank you. It's something we see a lot on my side, on the coaching side. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of hours and decades in sitting on that other side of the desk with advisors, and this happens all the time with everyone I've ever spoken to. And that's that part in that last line of outside perspective. So we have this confidence in I need to go to all these PD days, learn about another product, learn about another concept, learn about all these things that are incestuous within our industry. But what we really need to do and what we really need to understand when we take that giant leap of next is when we start spending time and gaining perspectives from other industries. So this is what's really interesting when I tested tapping in the beginning, lawyers, real estate coaches, advisors, right? But we all give advice for a living. But it's very interesting to see how each industry has approached this world of advice. So my biggest part when I see this overconfidence showing up in a way of you're so siloed, right? So segregated into and within our own industry. And that greatest part of attacking that bias in a really good way is to spend some time outside your industry, personal development or professional development, but actually get the lens from another industry. It helps flip that script a little bit too, right? Because we are talking about formulating habits, right? And you have that tape that replays through your brain all the time. And it is from your peers and it is from everyone within your industry itself, but you can't really truly make that change until you get to see another perspective. So that's a really interesting way to move forward. Okay. Survivorship. I like this one a lot because we just had an incredible experience with it. So I'm going to share just a little bit of a story. And then I'm going to call on Sean to talk about this. So when we're looking at survivorship, I just dealt with a one-on-one coach or a client, excuse me, that we worked together for almost 2 years. And this is that really important part. So succession planning is coming up a lot in our industry, a lot, right? The conversation of I need to sell a book, I need to buy a book of business, I need to do all these things. And our normal number that we throw out there that's talked about is 1.5 to 3 times renewals, whatever it may be. And so we talk about all these pieces of getting your business ready to sell, or do you have a contingency plan, or whatever it may be. This is the strongest thing between succession planning or having a contingency plan is actually systems and tools. And that's why I'm calling Sean to speak to this one. So what we did with this advisor is we didn't redo his whole block of business. We didn't segment it client A, B, C. We didn't do any of those things. We set up systems that make sense. And I'll give an example outside our industry. If you were to go buy a business and you bring in a business broker, right? What happens is that the least that the biggest depreciating asset is always the inventory. Always, right? So the land's worth a lot of money, the building's worth a lot of money, but the inventory is a depreciating asset when you're looking at the list and when you're having the conversation. So if you relate that to our industry, our client list is the inventory, is the depreciating asset. We know the stats that between attrition is what 70% that happens. But what happens when it is truly understood the mindset and the behavior of the ideal client, how all the systems and tools are set up to feed and promote to that ideal client, that now you truly understand who the buyer is so that the buyer actually understands and sees themselves within that business. The buyer wins, the seller wins. We're feeling more relaxed. And the ideal client, the transition is really, it's not that jarring. But that strongest part is that those systems and tools, majority of the clients won't even feel the blip, the change beyond an announcement. But it just feels the same. And that changes that 1.5 times, 3 times renewals. It quadruples it. The last one we did was 10 times because we had very strong systems and tools. So, with that, Sean, I'll let you chime in.
Absolutely. I mean, the work that you do with advisors in the beginning of building out all that core, the big work that needs to get done, allows any type of system to work off the backbone of that, which means that we could essentially switch a software and have the same experience happening. There are so many different tools that are out there for advisors and business owners to use. And that's where a lot of it is matchmaking the software based off of multiple different points, whether it's how you work, the level of support you need from the software company as well, how many advisors, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's key. And you mentioned it about whether you're looking to buy business or eventually sell, you know, working with a business owner who was in the exit planning business, a lot of it comes down to can a new business owner come into your system and pick up where you left off without needing you there? So when we're building structures in any type of tools, the simple things are really what goes the long pathway for this is naming conventions, making sure that tags or labels make sense. One test that I always look at when I look at somebody's system is can I understand what's happening in the system just by looking at it, right? Are things labeled? Are there notes? We hear these SOPs, these standing operating procedures, and while they're, everybody loves to make them, are they going to serve the purpose down the road? So, this phrase of building systems based off luck and not logic, again, when you're chasing the tail of the flashy AI rabbits and tools that are coming out all the time, and it's just going to be more and more, they're going to promise you a lot of micro wins, and you really need to look at what do you actually need, right? Do you need these flashy things that are probably not going to have a long shelf life, that's going to always disrupt your client's experience with you? We've had clients there that they're like, I need to start texting my clients because that's what the world is moving to. Everything's text based, and they started to do this on their own. We came in a little later, and what we found out was they had an older demographic that didn't really want to have text messages. They still wanted phone calls, right? So, all these notifications that came up, they didn't really care what was happening to that. So it's understanding who you're talking to. How do you need to be engaging with these different tools that are there, and how long is it going to go? And it's going to evolve for you. You're going to get comfortable with something, and you're going to be like, okay, well, maybe I like to adjust this now. And having a team that can work with you and do these regular check-ins and say, how's this working? You're like, well, this is great, but maybe if I could get this a little bit different, perfect. Let's modify. Let's change this a little bit. It's the same reason why you keep going back to a doctor and doing your checkups. They have the history on you. They know things that have happened in the past that are there and can help you with the systems.
Mhm.
That's why working with a team, and when there's a little shift, everybody's on board. It just has that longevity factor, so much more powerful for you.
Agree. I even look at the word survivorship and that horrible TV show Survivor, right? Or if you're a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout or whatever, right? When you always talk about survivorship, the first thing that you actually do is preparation, right? It truly is. You have to prepare for it. So when you understand, when you come into this business, and it happens all the time, right? We buy a whole bunch of systems and tools or the tech stack, right? Because we think we need all these things. We come in right away and we got to buy this tool or that tool or video editing or whatever it may be. And we have a credit card statement about this long with all these subscriptions coming through. But half the time, majority of the time, right, are the clients that get to this point only have like three or four different tech pieces that they utilize that are all integrated together. But what's really interesting is when we understand who we are, right? Then we understand who we serve. So we kind of relax ourselves a little bit better with better preparation and we understand who we are. Then we start understanding our ideal client. Then we purchase tech to be able to prepare for and feed our ideal client target market. So if you want to DIY this yourself, it's great. So first understand who you are, Then hint, hint, niche inward, your ideal client's probably you, right? And then it's that whole understanding of getting the right tech and tools that will actually appeal to your ideal client market, right? And that really truly helps with attacking the survivorship stuff. Okay? Status quo. Ooh, I hate status quo. Right? Staying outdated or staying loyal to outdated philosophies. Okay. So clinging to legacy systems, thought leadership, investment, or life insurance philosophies long past their expiration date. So, this is that part that is really interesting and is very important for us to understand. We say the sayings out there all the time, the future of financial services is not financial. We have all these little sayings that are out there that are happening now. We'll go sit in a room and we'll listen to a PD day, and someone's on stage that has been doing the same speech since 1952, right? So what it is, it's not that these people themselves, they didn't do incredible things back in the day. What is so important is for us to understand that we need to modernize that idea, that thought, right? So everything and anything out here today as an idea in business, in life, right? They're old philosophies and it just gets modernized or there's a tweak to it. A bunch of people enter into a room with an idea and they come out with their own version of that idea, right? So this is what happens is that understanding of no that investment profile or that life insurance concept or that thought leader that's been on the stage since 1952 or all of those things. It's not that it's not relevant anymore. It's how do you make this relevant in the situation where you are today? Right? We have never had more access to information, to thought, to whatever there may be out there, but we are incredibly disconnected because we just stay within this bubble. So you have to challenge that status quo and step past and modernize the ideas that are out there. So there's a gift that I send out to some people, and it's an old storm glass. Derek has one, Sean has one, right? And it's this old naval piece that were on the ships way, way, way back in the day. Way back in the day. And so this is that. Oh, Sean's got the storm glass pulling up. It's like a barometer, right? It's really cool and it really works. So I see a lot of marketers and I see a lot of influencers making fun of financial advisors, utilizing anything that has to do with ships or lighthouses or navigation or all that kind of stuff, like modernize this. I'm making fun of everyone. But that is such an identifier that actually happens. But how do you challenge that status quo? So I like that storm glass because they took an old naval concept, an old idea back from the 1800s, and they modernized it so that it fit within the story and the narrative today. So it's not the thing, right, that doesn't exist is wrong and is poo poo. It's how do you make it relevant to reframe it so it makes sense to the culture, the community, the context of today. Okay? Ooh, comparison. Ugh. Right? So that bias of comparison. So measuring success against others instead of alignment. So advisors rarely admit how much they compare themselves to their peers, even when you say you're independent, right? So out of the fellowship, who wants to jump in on this one first on how you see it within your world?
I'm raising my hand.
Okay.
Um, I, I see this all the time. I'm guilty of this all the time. We live in such a pressurized society. Social media exacerbates this. We're living a comparative life all the time. This shows up in our marketing when, let's say, our area of expertise is helping business owners go from operator to investor.
Mm.
We pull up LinkedIn and we start to scroll through our feed and we notice that market analysis is trending. Advisors are getting a lot of traction with those posts. We're seeing hundreds of likes. We're seeing engagement. We're not thinking about the behind the scenes components like engagement pods, pay to play schemes, right? We're not considering the artificiality that can take place, right? We know better. None of us do that, but others might, right? It interferes in our ability to utilize not just our expertise, but our energy. And we find ourselves following trends instead of setting them. We find ourselves posting where other posts are seeing success without thinking about the consequences, not just to our own brand, but to our level of commitment and dedication to ourselves and our own clients. It gets really precipitous. In other words, that cliff that we talked about earlier rises up higher and higher, and we reach it faster and faster when suddenly we look around and start measuring the success that we're facilitating with the clients we work with by other people's metrics. And when we start creating content and building our messaging frameworks around what other people are doing that seems to be working, we lose our own uniqueness. There's a reason that so many advisors sound the same way because this is exactly what they're doing. They're playing it safe. Playing it safe, it's important. We know this, right? For everyone who's ever worked with a compliance officer, playing it safe is important. But when you play it safe when it comes to expressing who you are,
Yeah.
you're not giving people the true picture of where, how, and why you excel and why you're the right person to work with. So it's really, really hard to be able to step back and put comparison in check. But I want to encourage you to find, and this is where I hope Jen is able to join us. I want you to look to find ways to build better habits to resist going down that rabbit hole so that you're able to consistently show up in your messaging as the person your clients already refer you as, instead of the advisor that sounds like everyone else.
Agree. Agree. Who wants to go next? Sean.
I'll pipe in a little bit about
Okay.
this. I don't necessarily see a lot of comparison in how people want their system set up, more so than they're comparing what they heard their fellow advisor or somebody they met is using a system, and they're just like, oh, we got to check this one out. But I see it a lot more when advisors that are doing their own marketing get email templates or emails from other lists that they're on. And a lot of times they'll just forward them over and say, hey, I want to do this. Just change out my business name in this email
Yeah.
sequence and just copy and paste it in because it must be working. I opened the email. But Derek, I mean, as much as you know, there's a lot more that goes on behind why those words were said in those emails, other than just, hey, I opened it. Everyone else is probably going to open it. That's in there. So I see that a lot. And again, none of that big work in the beginning was ever done in those scenarios. And it's coming down to you lose who you are when you try to copy what others are in there, because we're not all the same. So that's the comparison that I see a lot is getting forwards from other advisors from my clients saying, "Hey, can we just do the same thing they're doing?" And that could be based out of lack of time, feeling that I just need to get something out, right? I should have a nurture sequence. I should have a lead magnet because that's what the gurus told me need to be done, or that's what I saw on Instagram that I need to do. So I better just get something done.
Yeah. I'm going to pick on John. I'm not sure, John, if you're there. I think you're on screen. Mr. Pander, you are there. He is, John, I'm picking on you, hun. I just want,
Okay.
You get to fill in my time. I want to bring you on just as an example. You've been doing an email newsletter for a very, very long time, weekly for your clients. And if anybody saw me screaming and yelling and hooping and hollering about someone who's had 100% open rate on his email sequence or his weekly newsletter, this is the guy, right? But we did a big conversation in the beginning. So John, just kind of sharing with the group a little bit, and I'm so sorry that I'm picking on you, but I'm not sorry. But sharing with the group just a little bit as to what made you feel like showing up with your emails, with the story, the weekly newsletter in a different way. Is there anything that kind of popped into your head or encouraged that or made you feel any different and stop and kind of align with your stories a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the overriding theme was a story that highlighted, as Derek pointed out, it highlighted what or how I actually see people
Hmm.
and how I approach individuals. And it wasn't anything that was anything outstanding. I mean, it didn't have any uh, construct to it. It's just purely a descriptive of what this particular couple was going through. And and I've since gone back to just because I needed to kind of develop more of those particular types of emails. I went back to some of the traditional stuff of numbers and providing some quote unquote insight. And I found that folks were just not opening up as much. I mean, it went from 100% down to 50%. So I think it's just that story and how the intervention occurred and what I did that was, I don't know if it was different, but
It was
it
different.
evoked more emotion, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, John. It's really interesting, right? Because we're picking up the letters again this week and you and I are, chatting a little bit more later on. And it's that part of, you and I worked together for months, right? At the head of time, pulling, and you've worked with other incredible professionals. And that one part about you is that it's an ongoing exercise with you to actually work with professionals on a certain part. And then it's the next phase and a next phase, and it's a continuous build, right? You're forever a learner and an educator. So when we sat together for the months and put all this together and getting your voice out, we realized you're an incredible storyteller. You love telling stories, right? So you invented, the client, May and Clyde, and I just asked you to write me stories, and then we just formulated it in a really interesting way. And you're one of the individuals where it's a lot of fun where we use AI. And when I say brain, LLM, brain, right? We did all the work, ideal client, target market, pillars and intentions, all that kind of stuff. And then you started to write the story, and I put all this data into AI, and you and I jumped on together saying, okay, now let's have AI summarize this for us in here's your voice, your language, who you are as a person, giving AI the formula we want them to tell the story, which is something Derek and we'll get into later on in tap ins, but there's an absolute tried and true formula to tell a story, right? And then
Mhm.
let's test it. And it was so wonderful to watch that happen. And I honestly, so Jenna's the one here that said the 100% open rate was unicorn level shit.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
and
So I just
two,
want to congratulate that for you. And it really is, it's hard to pull away from what everyone else is doing. Oh, she's putting a unicorn. Oh my God. Right. It's hard to pull away from some of this stuff, right? Because we are comparing ourselves to everyone else. Everyone else is doing it. You go on LinkedIn right now, guys, and you look at almost any advisor's post. Who's liking the posts? Who's liking the posts? It's other advisors,
Yeah.
right? It's other advisors. So it's a really hard time. I've gone through this. So many people have gone through this, and we need to have awareness out there. When you make this change, you are going to see your engagement go down. And I put that in quotes very purposely, right? It's just that whole part. It's a new world, it's a new evolution, and you build every time with every evolution of yourself. So just be ready for that and aware of it. It'll change.
Well, and two, I just want to add a couple of things quickly. One, John, one of the things that you said is so important to highlight, and that is it wasn't brilliant, right? The Nobel Committee's not going to call in terms of the prize in literature, and that's why it's so effective, because it's not affected, right? It's not sounding like someone else. It was you being you. And that's what leads to the connection that is the start of conversion. And I absolutely love that because it takes some of the pressure off us. It summarizes everything we've been talking about today in that when you're yourself, when you have the courage to reflect, dig deep, and then begin to surface that in your content, not sharing every little detail, but finding that unique voice. It doesn't have to sound like Hemingway. It doesn't have to sound like Amy Tan. It needs to sound like you, John, right? And that's what connected with people. Kim, one of the other points you made has to do with reach. I just want to give you an example. I recently posted on LinkedIn about Perplexity's new AI browser, Comet, and the dangers that lie in the fine print. That post has gotten less, or it's 2 days old now, I think, 2 or 3 days old now. It's gotten, as of this morning, less than 800 unique impressions. It's been reposted 4 times, one of them by the director of UBS. Now, 1,000 impressions is hardly a viral post, but look at who's paying attention to it. Look at who's sharing it to their network. Those are the metrics you want to be looking at, not unique impressions, not likes, but who's engaging and sharing your content, right? And what are they saying about it when they frame that content for their networks? Those are the metrics you want to be paying attention to.
Right. The more and more you niche down, right? And all of us have been like the group, the fellowship, we've been on here for a very long time and posting and doing things for a very, very long time. So when you're looking at the metrics, our metrics are going to be different than yours, right? Truly, truly are. But what happens and what's really interesting to watch is when you are niching down, when you are niching inward, right? Sean says it, I say it, Derek says it, Jenna says it. You are speaking to an audience of one, right? That filter that you are filling is going to become less and less and less. So the people that you are going to resonate with, that volume, that generalization is not going to be as large, right? So it's just all the stuff of us having this conversation together so we all truly understand and we're on the same page and that you're not alone. Mr. Paul, I see a hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, if it's loud here, my apologies. I'll talk quick. Yeah, what I've done, and I just wanted to, I guess, reiterate Derek and also your point, Kim, is I typically do two types of posts, and I run all these little controls on, and I do posts that are more kind of what's on LinkedIn. Sorry, I should specify. I do posts on LinkedIn. And some are like of very happy events like paddleball. And I get for me, tons of engagement, right? Sometimes over 100, which again, for me is good. But then I'll do more technical or more industry specific posts and the engagement is way lower. But to Derek's point, I go look and see who has engaged or who has posted comments. And it's usually very, very good advisors, which is who I want to connect with, right? So anyways, I just wanted to say, yes, that is something that I have noticed. And there's just, you don't get the dopamine hit of all the likes when you're.
Right.
Anyways,
that's exactly it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's, as we get into tapping deeper and deeper and we're going to be picking Jenna's brain a lot. We even just we forget about even the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Of all that kind of, so we need all these things. So where do we get those hits from? And even Paul just having that conversation too. Let's take LinkedIn. Like 100%, let's take LinkedIn. 1.2 billion users on LinkedIn. Out of that 1.2 billion, 500 million post or are active on there. And that active equals one post a week, maybe on average. But when we look at LinkedIn as a whole, so when we're looking at different mediums, systems, tools, where are clients going on, understand and go through your scroll, through your feed again. You're going to see, yay, we went to a pickleball event and drank and had a really good time, right? I'm going to this event, this session, this conference, and here's my wholesaler and we're buddies, which is awesome, right? Or I just changed a job, congratulations, or I've been promoted. That is the majority of the feed in LinkedIn, and those get the biggest likes, visible likes and engagement because LinkedIn is not anonymous. So I post a lot of emotional content, right? Deep, deep thought leadership. My stuff on LinkedIn goes, right? YouTube, Instagram, massive. And people engaged because it's no longer Kim Skirmer posting or Derek Pollard commenting back on my post on LinkedIn. It is now Doc Copy 12345 on Instagram, on YouTube, right? So even just having that understanding of anonymity, like it's hard because LinkedIn, a lot of people, it's a business to business platform. So if you're starting to go a lot deeper into your niche, into your thought leadership, just again have that understanding that people are not going to publicly support you as much, or it's not going to show as much, because 85, I think the number is 85% of the content that happen on LinkedIn is I went to an event, I went to a conference, I got a new job, I got a promotion. Right? And cool. We need to celebrate that stuff too, but it's just having that understanding of those pieces, right? Okay, Jenna, I'm gonna have you do the recap. Actually, I'm gonna go here. Hello, welcome to the room. Welcome to the room. Okay, so I want you to do the recap because a lot of this stuff and spending about 5 minutes of just pointing out what you see as a behavioral psychologist of why just helping people understand and we just recognizing that these do exist with all of us at one point in time. Probably the best way to say it. So it's all yours.
First, had severe FOMO as I was watching you all go through these and talk through them and not being able to directly interact at the beginning of the conversation. So thank you for letting me kind of tuck in at the end here. I mentioned in the chat the neurology of a lot of this, which is we're made to look for patterns in everything ultimately. That provides safety and security for us. So individuality, the confidence to stand out and stand up, literally rewires the brain. That's why something like John's campaign hits because it is different than what people are seeing out there. Um, in terms of talking about the bias, and again, I'm maybe because of proximity kind of stuck on this comparison bias, especially because I see it in two ways. Comparison, all of these ultimately can be used as a motivator, as a tool, right? I can self-reflect. I can understand the growth opportunities in each of these. And in that comparison one, especially, again, it can either be motivating or it can really just be kind of a creative killer. And as Sean was speaking, I immediately thought of my classroom days and not even that long ago when graduate level students would ask me for an example. Can you show me an example of what you want what you want for us to produce? And I would say, no, of course not. Like I gave you the instructions. That's what you're following. And if you do that, I've given you enough information. I want to see what you create out of that. And I think ultimately, in all of our bias whether it's toward someone else, whether it's toward a tangible, a thing, or whether it's inward, reflected on us. What we're attempting to do is, again, understand our position in the ability to influence others, to make change. Um, and if you think about things like independence over isolation, even when we niche down, even when we think about each individual, if I'm thinking about one creates a collective with another, right? It's always one plus one. And that creates that ripple effect. And so we have an opportunity each time to reframe each of these bias that we might experience, that might be experienced through us. Um, where else do I go?
Right.
Again, it is it's easy to it's easy for us to feel thank you. It is because it is about sustainability. And again, when we're in a process of thinking about a status quo, right? Am I enough? Do I belong? Comparison bias. Is this, do I have a seat at the table? Is the door even open?
Mhm.
Um, all of that gives us opportunity to identify the one within ourselves, which is ultimately who we're always going to be speaking for and from. And I think that's probably, if I were to think about a conversation, and the best opportunity is when we speak for our own voice, when we speak from our own voice, people are always going to want to listen because they've never experienced life the way that we've experienced it. They've never, even if I had a twin, even if I had a sibling who grew up very similar to me, we have such unique perspectives, and that is the beauty of one plus one is
Mm.
our ability to create new perspective in others through our story. And I encourage John, like that's it's brave. It's brave to just say like, hey, here's an idea. Let me see how this paints out on a canvas and try it. And the reality is, the best ideas are going to hit, and the best ideas are not going to hit sometimes.
Mhm.
If we're working through our bias, we are able to again reframe, adjust, um, and do it from our lens.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's so important. And I love how, as we go in through tap in throughout this season and we listen to all the experts and we all, again, doer of all, knower of nothing. And I still hold that business card, guys, because I have to remind myself. Because again, we have all lived through this or will go through this at a certain part in time. And this is that part when we really lean in. I wear a bracelet, and that bracelet, it says curiosity, right? So when you're in these rooms, or if you're feeling something and there's a tension, lean into that tension because there's a lesson within there. It's maybe you're in the wrong room, you're showing up the wrong way, whatever it may be. But it is really challenging, and it is absolutely, almost really swore very loud, absolutely exhausting to give advice for a living, right? It's absolutely exhausting because you have to listen. That takes a lot of energy, all of that stuff. And we've been taught in a different way and in a wrong way to, fill your calendar full of appointments, do this, do that, do this. It is understanding that you are going to hit these pieces, and in these pieces too, there's buried in there about taking care of you. Because when you don't take care of you, when you don't start with the I, you're screwed. You're going to keep falling into these hidden traps, right? These hidden biases that limit your business and your belief. And the best way to get past these limitations is to be part of groups and peer groups like this, right? It's very important.
Kim, can I
So,
just jump in
sure.
really quickly
Yeah.
too? Because in so much of my wellness and mental health work, again, I'm working on a one-to-one, and it's also work that's done confidentially. So most people have no idea
Yeah.
what the impact of the work is that I do. And so when I'm talking to my executives, my C-suite, they're wanting to see these metrics, this really important data. And there's a meme that I shared years ago that I still stick with, which is you can't always measure the impact of a hug with your grandma. And
Yeah.
again, I think we get so stuck on this, the comparison, the status quo. I need this many likes. I need to, that dopamine hit of this. And the reality is, uh, maybe I just needed that one person to know that they are important in some way in that day. What a magical ripple effect that has. And so again, I think we can get so stuck on metrics and data and the importance of that. And ultimately, it might just be a warm feeling.
Some warm cookies at night. Like that
There
was,
you go.
yesterday was the date of me being told or us being told that my mom was terminal with cancer, October 26th, right? 2011. And I had to go bake some cookies because my mom used to make us cookies. And it was the kind, so there's all this connection to these pieces, and this emotional and behavioral stuff is not shown publicly at all. That's why these rooms are important. That's why we get so pissed off and upset when someone goes and films them, I hate that. Sorry, when a homeless person or doing something, right? The fake cries, all of that kind of stuff for likes and attention, where it's bastardizing that true, pure, moving emotion that everyone goes through. I'm about to post my absolute breakdown before I had my breakthrough publicly, and I've been trying to do it for 2 weeks and I can't post it. But it's 6 minutes of me screaming my head off. And it just so happened to be recorded, right? We have to show these moments. We have to have these rooms to help us move forward, to understand that it's not a three-legged stool anymore. You're building your bench strength now, right? It's a completely different thing. So, in the 2 weeks, when the tap in comes back again, we're now going to talk about the biases that are really strong in advisory based businesses that truly help move people forward. When we talk about empathy, and empathy is understanding the emotion that they're coming from, not feeling sorry for them, but actually understanding that emotion. The curiosity bias, the bias towards action versus perfection, client is expert bias, and the bias towards transparency. I will tell you, when I used to be a wholesaler 30 some years ago in the financial services industry, I would purposely go out in October. Like, this is funny, but I would go out in October to all my advisors and I'd show them how I got paid. I'd show them exactly how I hit my bonuses and how I got paid. And everyone's like, why did anyways, I'd win lots of awards, let's just say. But I brought the advisor in saying, hey, like, we've had an incredible year together. We talk, we do this, but this is how I get paid. And the bump would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. People want to know, they want to be on your team. So let's show them how they can help you, because that's the biggest way to gain trust. On Wednesday, you're going to get an email, midweek mindset. So what happens with Tap In, you start to get a whole bunch of tools. So it's not just every couple of weeks of us just talking here back and forth about topics. You also get tools from us. So on Wednesday, you're going to get a midweek mindset. This is a wonderful bunch of psychology coming together, atomic habits, all of those pieces that make sense and have been crafted towards our industry. So when you get this on Wednesday, it's a very, very, very simple exercise to track for a week these 4 things. Just notice your habits, something that is showing up, good or bad, but every day. I do this all the time. I do this in the evening because it actually helps me brain dump and clear my brain before I go to bed, right? So just this week, you're going to start noticing your habits, time of day they're happening, where you are, your environment or place, and what was leading up to this notice habit. Okay. And then on day 7, I want you just to simply in the margin on the side, put a yes or a no of, does this habit move me towards the person I know I am? not who I want to be. I know who I am. Language reframing matters. So you'll be getting this on Wednesday. So everyone who is on the calendar invite list, you'll be getting those pieces. So this tap and loop that we're doing, it's awareness, it's alignment, it's action. It's us having these conversations. I want you to start spreading the noise about this, letting people know that you've had this fantastic experience. I want you to send us notes, emails, follow us on social, LinkedIn, Jenna, Sean, and Derek. I hope you put your LinkedIn address in there, but follow along. But if you have any content or context that you want us to break down for you to help you with, let us know. This community is about all of us coming and showing up together and having these conversations. So that is it for today. I thank you so much for joining for the first tap in. Again, next week is about the bias that helps move you forward. And then the week after that, or the next one after that, we're going to start diving into breaking down who am I? Okay. So thank you so much, everybody.